You're listening to the Multiverse Fancast, proud member of the Misfit Faction Media Network.
All right then, on with the show.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Multiverse Fancast. Don't forget, if you guys are listening to us on the go, you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, basically anywhere you get your podcast. You can also find more of our content on our website, themisfitfaction.com. There you find links to not only this show, but some of our other shows like Cinematic Adventures and MF Uncensored. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Paul. With me in the studio today, straight from Cinematic Adventures and Your Mom's Diary, Sean. Sean, how are you today?
I'm just peachy. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for joining us because
I'm happy to.
Other co-hosts don't go see the movie.
Hey, other co-hosts are going to be a father soon, so you know what? Give him some.
We will allow it. But anyway, so we are finally back. We did take a little break on all of our shows, so we are excited.
It's much needed break.
Much needed break.
We're all doing stuff, you know.
This is like the busiest time of the year, not only for me personally with work, but also just movies and this and that. So just trying to find the time at this point, you know? Indeed. But we're excited because this is a movie that we've very much been looking forward to for the past, 2 years? 3 years? When did the first one come out?
I'll be honest with you, I really kept forgetting this movie was coming out.
Really? Did you?
But not in terms of I had no desire to see it. It was just, I just kept forgetting about it.
You are terrible. There was not a whole lot of the promotion
we just
for
found
this.
out today that this movie was supposed to come out a year ago. We didn't even realize that it was ever delayed. Like, I don't remember.
I'm sure we realized at the time.
But we didn't make a big thing about it.
I don't think so.
Because you would think we would have.
You would think, but we didn't.
We didn't.
So,
and we're talking about Fast X, obviously.
Shut up, we're not talking about Fast X. Cars in space. And for the record, the previous movie came out in 2018. So it's been
5 years?
5 years.
That's crazy.
And, of course, we are talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse today. That was a nice. Yeah, indeed. We're trying to save our thoughts. Indeed, because as typical, when we do a movie that has been released in the basically right as it came out, like we do our episodes with the release, we'll do a non-spoiler section for those of you guys who haven't seen it yet, and then we'll do our spoiler warning, and then jump into the actual spoiler discussion because this movie has a lot to talk about. And if you haven't seen this movie yet and you're just listening to the intro, which, hey, what's up? This is one of the very few movies that I say I have to go see it again in a theater.
Oh, okay.
I would definitely go see this film again in a much nicer theater than we did.
If they were to re-release this next year when the next one comes out and you watch them back to back, would you do that?
Yes. Okay. That'd be a lot of fun. Especially in the right theater.
Yeah.
Like a nice digital theater. Oh, yeah. But this movie, if you are, for some reason, if you're on the fence about this movie,
I'd be surprised if you were. I'm actually quite intrigued by that because I don't know what the overall feelings are about the first one in terms of the fan base because it's a lot. It's
the first one. They both have universal acclaim. They are both
absolutely
just considered some of the best superhero movies of all time and best animated movies of all time. In fact, this one is now currently the longest animated film ever. That's what I'm told.
Yeah,
that's what I've read on the interwebs, but. Like these movies, I want to see what kind of awards this one picks up just for the style alone.
Well, the first one, I think, didn't it win? I think that won Best Animated Film for the Oscars. So, this one, I'd be shocked if this one doesn't win.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think what other animated films are really...
DreamWorks always got something coming out.
Yeah,
Disney, Pixar's already got some. Elemental, I think, is coming out soon, which is supposedly going to be pretty good.
I don't know. Like, it's funny because, like, Pixar still makes great things, but they haven't made the best things.
No, for the longest time, it was just like Pixar would always win because it would be like probably the most popular and also maybe original. But I think Pixar's kind of losing its steam here.
Yeah, like I like Soul, but nobody ever talks about Soul.
Nah, no one talks about Soul.
Lightyear was apparently not that
Lightyear,
good.
and they apparently just fired a couple of the guys who were in charge of that movie, which is just a dick move. I'm sorry. The one Pixar movie that did not do well, and you're gonna find the guys. I hate that. But I still haven't seen it.
Yeah. I think the big issue with Lightyear was that the tone was completely different from Toy Story. Like it was supposedly the movie that inspired Andy to love Buzz Lightyear, but
we get that, but people don't seem to get that.
Yeah, I think. But people are watching it. They're like, why would a 9-year-old be like enthralled with this movie? Like,
are you serious?
That's what people say about that.
Where are you people been. 9-year-olds are enthralled with whatever movie they see.
Apparently not when I go see Spider-Verse, because we had nothing but kids being assholes at the theater. By the way, if you guys go take your kids to a theater, make sure they have some decorum. It was rough.
That was one thing I still to this day thank my parents for. I don't recall the talk like, hey, you need to be quiet.
Yeah.
But I'll double check with them, but I don't think I was ever a rowdy kid when it came to being in a movie theater.
Now you're just a rowdy adult.
I am.
Yeah, now you're making up for lost time.
I love it.
But anyway, so really quick, since Sean, you were not on our original discussion, we're not going to do any news because obviously this movie's going to take up a lot of discussion time, and we're really waiting for Flash at this point. Sean and I were talking off air about planning that.
We're going to see that.
I'm also going to have a Flash article on the website this week about the show, because the show just ended. You gave up on Flash.
I haven't watched Flash in probably 5 years.
It ended on a bit of a whimper, unfortunately.
Really?
I mean, without spoiling anything, they brought back like all the old villains and everything, and just kind of it fell flat. Yeah, unfortunately.
Man, CW's not doing too well on their endings. Even Supernatural fell on a whimper.
Yeah, Supernatural ended technically the episode before the series finale. But Superman and Lois, though, my brother just started watching it, so we watched that down at the beach house.
Is it official? Is that moving to Max, or is that staying on?
It's still on the ether between that and Gotham Knights.
Not even.
So apparently DC has, or Warner Brothers TV has, they have 2 DC shows right now. Mm-hmm. They have Gotham Knights and Superman and Lois. Gotham Knights is cheaper. Mm-hmm. Superman and Lois is has better numbers and reviews. So the rumor is that they want to move it to Max. I hope they do. I don't know. I know you haven't watched any of it, but it is this season, the 3rd season of Superman and Lois has probably been some of the best superhero television of all time. Wow. They managed to figure out. Remember how Superman Returns tried to make him more relatable by making him an illegitimate father?
Whose son is that?
Yeah, a concept that I hated in Superman Returns, they actually make work exceptionally well in Superman and Lois. Because the appeal of this show is, yes, there's really cool Superman action set pieces and Superman challenges, but he has more challenges at home trying to be a father and a husband. Mm-hmm. And it's much more relatable. So, not that I have challenges being a husband. I'm a great husband. I love you. I love you, producer Melanie. But anyway, so for this, though, you didn't get a chance to see or to talk with us about the first one. So what are your thoughts on the first, what is it, Into the Spider-Verse?
Into the Spider-Verse. So I can remember when we started seeing trailers for this movie. I was not really that into seeing it.
The first trailer was them in the subway just talking to each other.
But it was at that time when obviously Disney had come to the agreement with Columbia and was like, okay, we're going to combine our forces on the Tom Holland Spider-Mans. And then Columbia just started throwing out all these other movies like Venom, and was like, they're holding on dearly to this property, but they don't want Disney anywhere near this stuff. And I just was like, it just felt like Disney with Star Wars for me. I was like, well, you guys are just bleeding this to death. Like, whatever. So, movie comes out. I didn't see it in theaters. I'm pretty confident you did.
Yes.
And you from the get-go were like, dude, it's really good. You got to go see it. You got to see it. Never saw it in theaters. This was actually a COVID lockdown movie for me, where, we were, obviously locked down for a couple months, and I was watching endless movies that I had not seen before, and this was one of them, and it was fantastic. So good. The animation was just, the best I'd seen in a long time. Better than, in my opinion, I think it was better than, Pixar and Disney's animation. The style was just unbelievable. The voice acting was good. The storyline was good. And it really, it struck me how really much I enjoyed that movie. I'm not going to lie. I just did not really remember there was a sequel coming. Yeah. I knew there would be, but it's been 5 years. I was like, I don't know when this movie's coming out. But I really enjoyed Into the Spider-Verse. It was a unexpected surprise for me that I enjoyed it as much as I did.
So both Spider-Verse movies work in a couple of different capacities. One is purely the animation style. Mm-hmm. I didn't like the animation style when I saw it in theaters.
Really?
It was too jarring for me because they do a lot. You could do it
very Speed Racer.
You could do a ton of videos on everything about on YouTube. I follow Cinema Wins. I'm a big fan of them, and he did a video where he talked about just the artistic style alone and the differences that they did. Miles would be running at slower frame rates than other characters to show that they're faster than just some incredible stuff that they do. And I remember walking out of the theater though going, besides the animation, I really like that movie. And then finally, like, it started to, like, just kind of marinate a little bit. Because Spider-Man is one of my top 5 favorite superheroes. Yeah. I'd say, I want to say he's actually number 2. It goes, like, Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, Cyclops, that kind of rating system. But for me, like, this was the first time, I will say that these are the best multiverse movies that we've ever gotten. And that's not saying, some of the other ones are terrible. Like, No Way Home was good, was a good time, but it's not as rewatchable, unfortunately. No. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness was kind of a letdown.
Yes.
We're going to hold all judgment about Flash until we actually sit down and see it.
Yeah, until we see it. I mean, it's getting... People are, raving about what they've seen, but yeah. I'm waiting until I see it.
It's DC. We got to wait till you actually see it, unfortunately. But I think the best iteration of the multiverse up until the point was, honestly, the Arrowverse.
Oh, with the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
With all that stuff, like they tackled the multiverse in season 2 of Flash, and they ran with it, no pun intended, and they did a much better job than some of the other shows. But I remember, this is the callback. You ready? In the 90s, the Spider-Man animated show, they did a Spider-Verse crossover at the end.
Really?
Where basically the entire show led up to Spider-Man having to defeat another version of Spider-Man that had the Carnage symbiote, and
This was the 90s
This
cartoon
was the
show?
90s cartoon show. And he recruited Spider-Man from all different universes, including one Spider-Man with Doc Ock arms, one Spider-Man that was still going through the spider mutation where he had extra arms, a rich Spider-Man who had the metal 90s like silver suit, Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider, and I think there was one more who was an actor who played Spider-Man on TV.
Oh, wow.
And he actually goes to that actor's universe at the end and meets Stan Lee, who created him. And voiced by Stan Lee. So, like, Spider-Man has always, for some reason, really lent himself well to multiverse stuff. And I think, so far, Spider-Man has been the most successful with it.
I'm also not going to lie. I'm getting multiverse out.
Really?
It's just too much. It's just all over the place. It really is. But, again, I respect this storyline. Like, I thought the Multiverse of Madness was, as you said, just a huge letdown of a movie. It really didn't, except for that one scene
with the Illuminati.
It really didn't feed into
capture the multiverse
idea that I guess we're expecting it to.
Yeah.
And then obviously, No Way Home. I personally think it was a cop out. They took the nostalgia. They took the nostalgia and they really brought the fans back to it. Was like, oh, we actually do like Andrew Garfield now and Tobey Maguire. 10 years ago we wanted them murdered, but we really like them. Like, okay. For
the record, again, I always liked Andrew Garfield.
You did.
I defended those movies tooth and nail to people, and not to fight with Sean, because Sean and I have always had differing opinions about movies. There are some movies that he loves that I don't like, or vice versa, and that's what makes a good show. In all honesty, conversation. But I remember, I would be like, man, I love Amazing Spider-Man, and I'll always be the first one to be like, the scripts are not that good. No. But
you defended it, you liked it, and I was. But I also I was just like, Paul, it's literally a remake of the first one. There's nothing different except the actors.
I will say though that's why these movies work. The Spider-Verse movies work because they did it in the right order. It went, all right, characters, script, then all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Their focus was way more, and that's also why the reason this works is because they did not use Peter Parker as the main character. I hate to say it.
Well, no, you're right. And that was another factor, and was like, when I first heard about this movie, I was like, it's not even Peter Parker. I mean, I am not a comic book kid. I did not grow up on comic books, so I knew nothing of Miles Morales. I knew nothing of all the different variations of the character, any character.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, it's not even Peter Parker. Like, this is the Spider-Man we've all know. It's like, oh, okay, this is. You were ecstatic for it. It's like, oh, it's Miles Morales. That's pretty cool. Something different. But again, it's for someone who didn't grow up with that. I was like, do I want to see this? I don't know. But
I think, again, it works because it's Miles Morales as the main character, and then and also the bad guys are not as traditional Spider-Man villains. Like, you have Kingpin in the first movie.
Yeah, which is not a traditional Spider-Man villain, is it?
He was first a Daredevil villain, and then he was big in the cartoon series. Kingpin was a big character as the villain, but we've never seen him in live action with the exception of the Daredevil TV show.
And the Daredevil movie.
Yeah. Oh, in the Daredevil movie, that's right. Michael Clark Duncan. That's funny. But to have him as the main antagonist and then have like the female Doc Ock, because again, and what was the line that Peter P. Barker uses? He's like, and I re-examine my personal bias when he realizes that the doctor's a female. But it's just stuff like that really works. And then in this movie, you have, we're not going to do any spoilers, but you have Miguel O'Hara as a hero / antagonist. He kind of plays the role of both. And then you have the Spot as like the quote unquote, which to take a villain like the Spot, and that's what they do really well with these movies, to take a villain like the Spot and actually make him a force to be reckoned with. Wild.
Yeah.
But so for this movie, this movie is very simple. Again, no spoilers yet, we promise. The movie starts off, it's a year later, and the Spider-Verse is re-examined by the effects. And ironically enough, it ties into the first movie. I didn't think it would, watching the trailers. This movie is directly caused by the first movie. And when you find out in the middle, and you're like, oh my God, it sounds like they really actually planned it out, which sometimes sequels suffer from, where they try and retro recon things. And it's like, that doesn't work. You know, you can't just say this because something. So they do a really good job.
And the movie, I mean, basically this movie starts off and it's like the first 20 minutes are all about Gwen Stacy.
Which was very different, yeah.
Which was different. And you know, I'm sitting in the theater and I'm like, did I miss something? Is this going to be all from Gwen's point of view? Which was not a problem. I was just intrigued. I was like, oh, okay. It's clearly after the events of the first movie because she's missing Miles. She doesn't see him. But, you know, and it's showing what she has to deal with in her world, having, you know, basically her father, you know, is chasing her because it's the whole notion that, you know, the Captain Stacy is looking to take down Spider-Man.
Spider-Person.
So it was definitely an interesting beginning to the movie.
A lot more Gwen Stacy in this.
Yes.
A lot more traveling.
It's Haley Steinfeld, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Haley Steinfeld. But anyway.
She comes back as a Hawk Girl.
Oh, yeah. Or Hawkeye. She's technically
Hawkeye, but...
Yeah, I would be really good with... The Hawkeye show was way better than it deserved to be.
I actually did enjoy that.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting about the Hawkeye TV show, but I actually did like that.
The only missed opportunity of the Hawkeye TV show was at the very end when they're on the ice rink for Spider-Man to be swinging overhead because of how No Way Home ended.
That would have been interesting.
That would have been perfect. But so really quick, we'll talk a little bit about some of the returning cast. We have Shameik Moore returning as Miles Morales. And he's definitely going through the typical Spider-Man challenges because we've talked a lot about in past years, especially with the MCU. They got rid of the secret identity trope. And it's not as common as it used to be. And even on like shows on like The Flash and stuff like that, they tackle it in the first couple of seasons, and then it's just everybody finds out who they are. Like, what do you think about the whole superhero secret identity mentality thing?
I mean, it's just rooted in the whole world of comic book characters. I mean, you're right. It doesn't seem to be as big of a deal anymore, but there's still something to the whole, you know, masked vigilante or masked, you know, anti-hero that we don't know who that is, and they got to obviously live their lives not being able to tell the people closest to them what they're doing. And yeah, it's a struggle, but I still think there's something to that.
I do too.
If it's done right.
And the whole point about Spider-Man is, and the reason they put him in a full bodysuit, Stanley, and they say it in the first movie, anybody could be Spider-Man. Anybody could wear that mask. So I always like, you know, and obviously they update his costume in this with Miles, and he looks, I like the costume a lot more with this, with the red underlines, even though they keep asking if he's bleeding under his armpits or whatever it was. But you got Haley Steinfeld coming back as Gwen Stacy, much bigger role in this movie, a lot more depth to her. Like, we learned a little bit about her in the first movie, but this movie really fleshes it out. We got Brian Tyree Henry coming back as Jefferson Morales, excuse me. Luna Lauren and Velez as Rio Morales. So you get to see a lot more of the parents in this one. And I like, you get to see him and Spider-Man interact, and that's a lot of fun.
That's fun, yes.
We got a taste of it at the end of the first movie.
I love the scene in when they're talking to the teacher or whoever that is in the school, and they're going over his grades. And it's like A, and then B+ is smashed, and then his father's just like,
no,
are you trying to die?
That's the thing. So it's very unique in a Spider-Man dynamic to have the parents both heavily involved and be there. You know, to the point where they talk about it. Like, but oh my God, some of those scenes with the family were just so fantastic and just so relatable. Like, we've all been teenagers who have like the awkward moments with our parents. Like, you know, you're talking to a girl, your mom walks in, like, oh no, mom, please. But it's just really good stuff with the family. Jake Johnson returns as Peter B. Parker. We have Jason Schwartzman as the Spot. I did not expect to enjoy the Spot so much, but I really like Jason Schwartzman, I think he's a pretty funny guy. So to have him play that character was really entertaining. This is actually just skin. Oh. But anyway, Issa Rae as Jessica Drew / Spider-Woman. I'm not going to do all the Spider people because obviously just the ones that have been heavily shown in the marketing. So that way it's not spoiling. And I'll do one more just for you guys. We have Oscar Isaac as Miguel O'Hara / Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah.
I remember when we saw the first teaser for this movie and we saw all these characters in it was a very different animation style, the first teaser, than we actually got in the film.
Okay.
I'll show it to you after. But I remember not liking it at first because I liked how Spider-Man 2099 looked at the end of the Spider-Man movie, or the first one, where in the post-credit scene, he looked very sleek, but in this one, he's huge. Oscar Isaac killed it. He does a great job.
I'm not great with voices. It depends on the actor, but I was I'm watching the movie and I'm like, voices sound familiar, and I'm I can't place any of them, because I couldn't even remember that was Haley Steinfeld or whatever. But
yeah, they just kind of melt into these roles.
They found people whose voices don't usurp the character. Not to knock, back in the day when it's Robin Williams doing the genie, that's Robin Williams.
Oh yeah.
James Woods doing Hades, that's James Woods. That type of thing.
James Woods.
They didn't really cast for name. They just made sure the voices fit the characters and did the characters justice.
Oh, that's one more. Andy Samberg as Ben Reilly / Scarlet Spider.
Yeah, I didn't.
You did not know that was Andy Samberg until I pointed it out.
I didn't pay attention. I remember as you said the character, and I'm listening. Yeah, but it didn't sound like him.
And they do a really good job with that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to do a full spoiler discussion on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Spoilers!
Exactly, but first, a quick break. Hey guys, it's Paul, and the Misfit Faction is looking for your help. We are trying to grow not only our network, but also grow our brands, and the best way to do that is if you guys are looking to start your very own podcast. Maybe you guys have been listening to us for a while. Maybe it's something you guys have always wanted to do, but you're not sure how to get started. If you go to podbean.com/misfitfaction, you guys will get a month of free podcasting set as a gift from us. So make sure if you guys are looking to start your own show, you reach out to us and go to podbean.com/misfitfaction. Also, maybe you guys have your own online business or service that you're always looking to grow, and advertising is a very big part of that. If you guys go to sponsorship.podbean.com/misfitfaction, you guys can get $100 worth of free advertising, again, as a thank you from us to you guys. That's sponsorship.podbean.com/misfitfaction. All right, we are back, and this is your last chance. This is spoiler warning for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and we are going to not hold back. There's going to be a lot we're going to miss, because that's the problem with seeing a movie like this one time in theaters 2 days ago. But we are going to do our very best. Again, spoiler alert, you have been warned. All right, so...
Again, you've been warned.
There are so many spider people in this movie.
Oh my god.
I am glad, though, that we did not get all these spider people thrown at us in the first 10 minutes of this movie.
No.
It would have been an easy cop-out for them to literally just pull Miles into this new spider... Because that's what I thought it was going to be. Miles, Gwen recruiting him into this Spider-Verse, and that was the whole movie. I'm glad it wasn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was looking forward to it. I was like, come on. But obviously that just... It doesn't work out that way. So we find out that the plot of this movie... There's two plot points going on at this. One is the Spot, who is a character... You have no clue who the Spot is, right?
I never heard of him until the movie. No.
So the Spot was in the 90s Spider-Man show also.
Okay.
Same, played by Dr. Jonathan... The character is Dr. Jonathan Ohm. And he has a great episode. In fact, the one thing about this episode that is super, super noticeable was the Spider-Man TV show was heavily censored. Exceptionally censored, to the point where the police didn't carry actual guns. They carried laser guns because they thought kids would find that less realistic, which, true. The NYPD's not getting laser guns anytime soon. And Spider-Man wasn't allowed to punch anyone. If you watch the entire Spider-Man animated show, he never lands a single punch, except one episode with the Spot where he's calculating that if he goes through one of those holes, he'll catch him. And it's the only time in that entire show that Spider-Man lands a punch, because basically they cut it off where it's just half of his hand doing it. Stupid. But they do a much better job with the Spot in that, where literally he has one single spot on his chest in a white bodysuit, and he's able to expand it to turn into the Spot, and it's interesting.
Because it's funny when the character first appears on the screen, I'm just like, that is a weird costume. Who is that? What villain is this? And then you hear him talking, and he goes no, this is me. I can't take this off. This is not a mask. It's like
It's my skin.
This is my skin, and you're watching it, and Miles swoops in, and you could tell, Miles is in like a rush. He's trying to get back to see his parents at the school,
the parent-teacher conference.
so he's not taking the guy seriously.
Yeah.
The guy's trying to steal an ATM. He's literally shoving the ATM down one of the holes, and it just keeps popping up in the weirdest places.
And so the reason that this scene works even better is because later on we see Miles trying to get the cakes there, and he gets distracted by supervillains, and he's just like literally just one-shotting them.
Yeah.
Like he's at that point in his career where he's like feeling the most confident.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that
Cocky
he's
yeah.
So it makes sense that he's going to deal with the Spot and be like, really?
Yeah. So of course that motivates the Spot. It's like, you don't think I'm that supervillain? We'll show you.
The best is you find out that the Spot was like around for the first movie, and he's the guy that got hit in the head with the bagel.
Yeah.
And even funnier, if you watch that, you actually do see a scientist get hit in the head with a bagel, and when it hits him, a comic prompt comes up that just says bagel, and he drops. Yeah. I did my research before watching this.
But we don't actually see him at the end of the movie. Right?
Correct. Yeah. But so he was there when Spider-Man turns off the collider, and he gets caught in basically a very comic book inspired villain origin story. So I will say that having a multiverse quote unquote bad guy in a multiverse movie was smart. Very smart. And the visuals with the Spot were fantastic.
They were really good.
They lend so well to Spider-Man in general, where it's very like fun and hilarious, and there's jokes and there's visual gags. And I think Miles Morales they do a lot better with. Like if you watch the first Spider-Verse movie and you see the Peter Parker of that universe, and he's all like, yeah, he's still Spider-Man, but it's not as like cartoony or like it's not as physically funny. Like he's still making quips and stuff like that, but he's much more elegant in his motions. Miles is very like, oh my god, I got hit by a bus. Oh my god, ow. Oh, I tripped. Like he's still like hitting things as he swings and stuff like that. So it's a perfect balance for me.
Yeah.
But the Spot just wants to be taken seriously by his quote unquote nemesis. And when he accidentally travels, apparently the Spot has his own dimension called Spot World, where basically that's where he was. And having him travel through all the spots was really funny.
That was good. It's like, he goes into the Lego movie, the Lego area. He goes into the Venom universe and talks to Mrs. Chen.
Yeah, and they do a great job making him look quote unquote realistic.
Real. Yeah,
and that was the one thing about this movie. They lean into so many different styles. And the first movie, it was all these characters in Miles's world, and you only saw their world through flashbacks. Did you ever find it jarring to go to some of these other characters' worlds and like see the colors there and how things change there?
It's different, yeah.
Like the Gwen Stacy, they do a lot more with this movie about when a character's feeling an emotion, the background changes. Like when Gwen and her dad are talking towards the end, like the backgrounds and the colors are constantly changing. And I'm like, imagine that happening in real life. It's like living in a mood ring. But it's so comic booky. It is so...
But it's great.
It works.
It does work.
And then going for the other villain of the story, I would kind of consider what's his face, Miguel, as he's antagonist.
He's an antagonist. Now it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Are we gonna mention that the movie? The
movie does end on a cliffhanger.
The movie ends on a cliffhanger. So we have less than a year until the next part comes out. Which I had no idea that was going to happen.
I did, yeah.
I did not know.
And it's called... We'll talk about it towards the end when we kind of do some speculation, because it's called Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Beyond the Spider-Verse. But yeah, so you meet the character of Miguel, you find out his backstory, and you feel for the guy.
Oh, yeah.
You absolutely feel for the guy. And it just festers and festers with him. Like, he's a no-nonsense guy. He is trying to tell Miles, like, what is happening here. But he shows no empathy towards it. He's a little bit. He
does to a point, but he is that kind of guy that it's like, here's the line.
Yeah.
We can't cross it because I did, and I saw what happened. So we find out that in this Spider-Verse, in the multiverse, there are anomalies. And we've tackled this in other Spider-Verse or in other multiverse projects. Like Loki, that was the whole point.
Yeah.
And even to the point where when he first lines up the Spider-Verse, the first thing you see is the blue, like, tree-looking thing. That's from Loki. That's the timeline when it's splintered. So that is from the MCU. Mm-hmm. And so we find out that Miles is what's called an anomaly. But he's an anomaly in his own universe. So basically, the spider we find out from the first movie that bit him was originally from another dimension. And from there, doing the collider, it came from Universe 42. And it never bit that Peter Parker there. It never created Spider-Man. Instead, it came here and created basically a second Spider-Man. And they do a great job tying it into the first movie where Peter died protecting you. You weren't supposed to be there. You're the thing that caused all this stuff. You created the spot. You created this multiverse threat. Like, that's why we don't want you here. Because they do say, like, he can't come here. He can't be part of this. And it's because he sneaks along that he starts changing things too, especially with, we find out that, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to say his name, Prokbar Parker?
Yeah.
In Spider-Man India. Well, that's what he's called. Please don't come at me. But yes, Spider-Man India was supposed to lose his girlfriend's father on the bridge, but Miles saves him and the child. And that's because basically they play into the trope that some superheroes have defined superhero origins. You got Batman has to lose his parents to become Batman.
Spider-Man has to lose Uncle Ben.
And he has to lose
Captain Stacy.
A close confidant. Yeah. Superman's planet has to explode. Like, part of these things that are just ingrained into the superhero mythology that if you change, they're not going to be the same superhero. And so it's a great idea for them to play with and a great idea for them to explore. And the chase scene in the middle where they're trying to get Miles is just fantastic.
It is fantastic. Because basically what they're telling him is, Captain Stacy, this and that. And he's just like, oh, my dad's about to be a captain. So now it's like, his
dad plays the role that Captain Stacy plays with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to get a little controversial. I want to hear your thoughts. You never played the Spider-Man PlayStation game, right?
No.
You still can. I still have a copy. Don't forget.
Nice.
It's so good. But in that movie, he has a good and bad relationship with the police officers in it. Like, some police officers think he's a vigilante and he should be arrested. Others are like, no, we need him. So apparently, in the new Spider-Man game, they're going to take out some of the good relationships with the police officers because of the current world situation. Sean rolled his eyes. All right, just so you guys know. I like having the duality.
So they're gonna make most of the cops hate Spider-Man, is what you're telling me.
Probably, or be corrupt or whatever it is. And it's funny because you watch any sort of superhero property, I find the like Batman's always had a good and bad relationship with Gotham
because
PD.
Commissioner Gordon's always been on his side, but there are also cops who are just like, why?
Yeah,
he's the reason we're dealing with all this crap, you know.
So I like it doesn't have to be just one way or the other.
Nah.
And I like having more layered, because that's how real life works.
Yeah.
Not everybody agrees on everything. Weird.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And this is the world we're living in now.
But
it's either got to be one side or the other. It can't be.
There's no room for discussion. It's
no
weird.
Room. Yeah.
Talk to us. But anyway, I really enjoyed Jefferson and Spider-Man, though. I thought that was a really good dynamic.
I would like to see it a little more, because you could tell he's not. He obviously it's different from the first movie, but he's definitely grown more. He trusts Spider-Man more.
You can tell that they've been working
together, but it's still not like, it's nothing compared to like Commissioner Gordon and Batman.
It reminds me of Gordon and Batman in Pattinson's Batman. You could tell that they have a working relationship, that there's a level of trust between them, but it's not 100%.
Yeah, or even like Gary Oldman and Batman in like Batman Begins.
Yeah,
kind of like it's starting.
Yeah,
we haven't reached the I trust you fully.
I love how
I respect what you're doing, but I also don't agree with it 100% of the time.
You know what one of the most realistic things about this movie is? Miles curses more. He's a 15-year-old kid. 15-year-old kids have mouths for the most part.
Pretty much.
And one of my favorite lines, and again, this is a movie I have to rewatch just so I can learn more of the lines, because some of them are fantastic, where he mumbles, well, maybe you should get off his ass a little bit. What'd you say? Nothing? Because he's Spider-Man. Letting your wings fly. But what did you think of the twist at the end when he actually got sent to Earth 42 by it? I saw it happening. As it was happening, I was like, "That he's not going to go to the right place."
I didn't see that coming, and obviously it does a good job where it's like, his mom walks in and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to tell my mom I'm Spider-Man," And
you know what the first clue was though? He put on a jacket that had the Prowler's colors, the green and purple.
I would never notice that. That's not. I can't notice those things.
If he put on a Harryhausen shirt.
Even when the mother didn't believe him, I still was like, okay, she just doesn't believe him.
Yeah.
Like, I wish Dad was here, to...
The script writing is perfect on that.
And then once you see Uncle Aaron, you're like, crap.
That's one of the few scenes in this movie that completely warrant a rewatch after knowing the situation.
But I knew the minute he went up to the roof.
Yeah.
That he was going to be
the Prowler.
When you saw it, him get punched, I was like, that's him.
Yeah.
That's him in this one.
I'm curious to see how they explain that. Probably with the death of his dad and stuff like that.
Probably.
But then you find
wonderful uncle there.
Yeah, I know, right? It was great to have Mahershala Ali back.
Oh, yeah. I mean, anytime you get Mahershala Ali back is great. But also, so the whole, going back to the whole Miguel conversation, it's like Miles is just getting this thrown at him. He is literally just blindsided by all this.
After an entire first movie of him being told that anybody can be Spider-Man, you have this power.
He's now being told that
it's
because of you we're dealing with all this trouble.
And you don't deserve to be
when
Spider-Man.
Your two best friends are standing behind you going like, yeah, we knew this.
Oh, it was gut-wrenching. The Peter B. Parker stuff was worse than the Gwen Stacy stuff. Because Gwen you're following throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And so you kind of see where she's going a little bit more. And then Peter B. Parker comes out and he's all like, hey, man, like, this is my daughter. Look at all these pictures. Yeah. And I do love the line he gives to Miguel. Like, we're supposed to be funny, right? Like, we're supposed to be making jokes. You're so serious. But the scene of them when he helps Miles and then he's trying to talk to him and then you find out that he's actually tracking him. I was like, oh, gut punch. I'm not sure if he knew he was tracking him.
I don't think he did.
I don't think he did either. I think he was really just genuinely trying to. Because he even says to Miles, like, you're the reason I have a kid. You're the reason I got my life together. You inspired me. Oh, God. Right in the feels.
And then it gets to the point where it's like, is Miguel just taking this? He's just taking this way past. It's getting to the point where, like, this guy is going to become a villain.
Yeah.
Because he's just so committed to making sure nothing else happened, which, yes, in essence, he's doing the right thing. He doesn't want what happened to him to happen to anyone else, to any other world. But the whole notion of, like, you should have let that person die, it's just like, how do you look at someone and go, like, how am I supposed to do that?
I'm of two thoughts, right? So, obviously, Miguel leaves Miles alone for a year. Like even though Miles is quote unquote an anomaly in his own universe, it's not like he goes after him. It's not like I got to destroy this anomaly. I got to do whatever. He's like, I'm going to let him Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's like, you got to go through all of this. Like, that's why you can't let your dad. Your dad's got to die for you to be the real Spider-Man. So there's a point of compassion there. Like, it's not like he's just a cold-hearted, like, you're an anomaly, you have to die type thing.
Oh, I get that.
So you have some sympathy, and then you find out his backstory where, let's face it, if you saw another universe that you could take over your own life and it was much better, whether more money or a family or, loved ones that you've lost or whatever it is, like, all of us would jump at it. I hate to say it. I'm a very happy person. I married the love of my life. I have a beautiful home. I have great friends. We do all this stuff. But if I saw a universe where I was a multi-trillionaire, I'd be like, Elon Musk who? And I like that temptation would be there. So imagine Miguel O'Hara who has nothing. And that's one of the things I liked about having him. Spider-Man 2099 is very different than Spider-Man. So again, Sean never reading the comics, never knowing anything about it. I think this movie does a good job explaining who Miguel is for the most part. So in the 90s, the 2099 series was a huge series that they did where basically they took all of their most popular characters and gave them a 2099 variant. Ghost Rider had one, Venom had one, Spider-Man, all these characters. And Miguel O'Hara was one of the more popular ones, just like how Miles Morales is now one of the more popular alternate Spider-Man. So popular to the point where they actually brought them into the main continuity after Miles was part of the series called The Ultimates. Once that series was done, they actually pulled him from that universe into ours, and he got stuck there. Same thing with Miguel O'Hara. He got stuck in the past. And they gave him a nice new suit that's all white. I got to show it to you. It's really cool. But they do it's a much better idea than having just an older, evil, quote-unquote, evil or antagonistic Peter Parker.
Yeah.
I think having Miguel, who is not Peter Parker, and basically we can play around with the fresh slate of him, I think it's a much better idea. All right, so here are some of the other spider people in this movie. Oh, boy. All right, so
Take a breath.
I know. I did it in the last episode. I actually went through every single one of them. We'll talk about some of the main ones, like the ones who get their own little intros and stuff like that and play a part in the actual film, and then we'll talk about the cameos. So we mentioned Issa Rae as Jessica Drew / Spider-Woman. What did you think of Spider-Woman? She's there.
She's there. She's obviously at first she's kind of she looks like she's gonna be like kind of like lovable, friendly, because she's obviously the one who convinces Miguel to bring Gwen Stacy on because she feels for her, and then the more Gwen screws up, because let's face it, Gwen is also the reason that this is.
She lets Miles do the canon events.
She lets Miles. She's not supposed to see Miles.
Yeah.
They were like, you cannot let him know you're there.
You're chasing after the spot.
So, she's obviously keeping track on Gwen, and she realizes Gwen is messed up. She's like, I can't help you. You messed up. You need to fix this. So she's clearly still on Miguel's side. She understands that, they've messed up, but she's sticking to the...
She's still trying to help Gwen. To a point, and then but she's also holding her responsible.
She's holding her responsible. You don't know where she's going to go at the end of the movie, because she clearly sees that Gwen is. She knows where Gwen is, but we don't know what's going to come of that. But I would like to see more. She was. She's going
to be the swing vote in the next movie.
Probably.
Yeah, she's going to be the one that swings it. And also, fun fact: she's one of the few Spider people with no secret identity. Jessica Drew.
So I just want to see, because they make Miguel to be so angry, and he just really just goes off the reservation, how they're gonna either reel him back in, or is he gonna be the secondary villain in the next movie?
So it's funny you say that, because Miguel's spider powers are very different than...
He's got a werewolf looking, he's got the claws and all that
yeah,
stuff.
so in the comics, he doesn't actually stick to walls. He uses talents that grow. He's got I think he's got a venom strike too, like Miles has. Yeah, his powers are very, very different. I don't think he actually has a spider sense per se. It's something slightly different. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens with him in the next one. All right, we have Karan Sony as Pavatir Pranpakar. I want to say that. Or Spider-Man India. It was really funny having him. And this is the traffic, and this is more of the traffic. This is the other traffic, and this is where the British took all of our stuff.
And then before you know what the plot line is, the whole notion of this club of Spider-Mans, and Miguel's like, why wasn't I invited? And
Miles.
Miles was like, why wasn't I invited? And Gwen's just like, just let it go.
And
this Spider-Man's like, oh, I've been here 3 months. 3 months? What have you done?
Yeah.
It's just like, where's this going? Where's this going? Something's clearly not right with Miles.
Right.
What is it? We don't know yet. So that was interesting, and just that world that's just showing all the different worlds was also really cool.
Really cool.
All the different versions of New York.
Yes, they're all different versions of New York.
Basically, it's kind of like Big Hero 6 with the San Francisco. Tokyo.
Well, this place is called Mumbattan.
Yeah.
A combination of Mumbai and Manhattan, which was really funny. And I liked how they all had different styles, but they all had similar things. Spider Cat shoots spider out of his mouth, or spider webs out of his mouth. But
that was funny.
But in this Spider-Man India, he uses the bangle too, as part of his swinging and attacks, and just he's more almost like a yo-yo with his moving.
Yeah.
So they do a really good job with stuff like that. And I always like when there's at least one Spider-Man who's like, I love being Spider-Man. This is the best. I'm doing all these great things. I'm having tea with my aunt. And he's like, I love chai tea. No, chai just means tea. You're saying tea. That was a really funny scene. I don't know why. And then we have, going down the list, Daniel Kaluuya as Hobie Brown / Spider-Punk.
I liked Hobie.
So
I just love when it all goes to hell and Hobie's just like, yeah, I quit.
Yeah.
I'm out.
And then he ends up helping them too, which is
that's
better.
the thing, because at first you think, oh, this guy's going to be antagonistic towards Miles, because he's clearly
him and Gwen have a thing.
Miles really likes Gwen, so what is going to be here? And then it starts going down with Miguel and all them, and Hobie's just like,
I'm out. This isn't what I signed up for.
This isn't what I signed up for. And then he of course sends Gwen the watch.
So even better, you ready for this one?
What?
Hobie Brown is the son of the editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle, Robbie Brown, who was in the original Spider-Man movies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they never introduced Hobie, though. But yeah, I will say, though, it was a little... Sometimes, apparently this is an issue everywhere. It's hard to understand what people were saying in this movie sometimes.
Really?
The volume and how loud they were. I don't know if... Apparently that's a thing that's going around. People are saying.
I don't think we had a real issue. The Hobie character, he was low.
He talked very low.
It was just... But I think that was just the character.
Yeah. I did find it jarring sometimes, his animation style next to just normally animated characters.
He was he was the Nick Cage of this movie, it felt like.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But even Nick Cage, Spider-Man Noir, he still looked like a normal character.
This
It's not like this one had backgrounds that changed behind just him.
It was a punk rock look at the character. It was weird.
Which is fine, because Spider-Punk has been around for quite some time. But it was jarring sometimes. And imagine you were dating somebody and they just suddenly started changing colors behind you and like they don't look human half the time. Sometimes it was a little much. Let's see. Going down the rest of the Spider people, we have Andy Samberg as Ben Reilly / the Scarlet Spider. Scarlet Spider was one of my favorite characters growing up because he was the first not Peter Parker Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. It was during the Clone Saga, which people hate. The whole Spider-Man Clone Saga has been generally distasted by most Marvel fans, but we have 2 different Scarlet Spiders that come out of it, and Ben Reilly's the first one, and I really liked him, and they gave him the 90st of 90s styles.
Yeah.
And again, though, sometimes it was very jarring against the regular backgrounds.
So I'm just seeing right here below Andy Samberg's name, I didn't realize that the Miles of Earth 42 is a different voice actor.
I know, I just saw that too, played by Gerald Jerome.
That's interesting.
I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We have Amandla Stenberg as Margot Kess / Spider-Bite, the virtual reality spider person. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was interesting seeing her kind of swing towards the Miles side and then end up thinking she helped him, but by accident sending him to the worst place possible. We have Jack Quaid as Peter Parker of Gwen's universe, who became the Lizard, which was interesting. It was nice to see.
We didn't know anything about that in the first movie, right?
We saw a brief glimpse in her backstory saw a silhouette of him as the Lizard and her fighting him and then him dying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but no lines or anything. All right, here we go. Now, some of these characters are just by voice archive stuff or just in passing. I'm going to do my best. We have Kimiko Glenn as Penny Parker. She makes her return. Nicolas Cage and John Mulaney reprise their roles as Spider-Man Noir and Peter Parker through archival audio recordings, and then a last shot of them. Elizabeth Perkins as May / Quippy Spider Person. I didn't know Elizabeth Perkins was in this movie. I like her. But anyway, we have Taron Killam as Patrick O'Hara / Web Slinger and his horse Widow. Nick Novicki as the Lego Spider-Man, and one of my personal favorites, Josh Keaton reprising his role as Peter Parker / the Spectacular Spider-Man. If you have not watched Spectacular Spider-Man on Netflix, it is probably one of the best Spider-Man.
They didn't get any Christopher Daniel Barnes or anything?
I was really upset that they didn't. No, unfortunately, no. You have Yuri Lowenthal as Peter Parker / the Insomniac Spider-Man from Marvel's Spider-Man video game. And we have Mike Renata as Ezekiel Sim / Spider Therapist. And then Uncle Ben died. That was actually really funny. Sophia Barclay as Malara Winsler / Spider UK. Danielle Perez as Charlotte Weber / Sun Spider. Metro Boonin as Metro Spider-Man, a fictionalized unique version of himself. And Max Bourne as Spider-Man 2211. That was another big series, the 2211. He's the one with the extra arms that Miguel's hiding on. Mm-hmm. Or not Miguel, Miles. All right, here we go. Some of the non-vocal appearances. We have Spider-Man Unlimited, Spider-Man from the Marvel Mangaverse, Cyborg Spider-Woman, Bombastic Bagman, Spider-Woman, Julia Carpenter version, Samurai Spider-Man, Canadian Spider-Woman, Doppelganger, Ashley Barton / Spider Kingpin, Flash Thompson / Captain Spider, Maybelle Riley / Lady Spider, Mary Jane Parker / Spinneret and her daughter Anna May Parker / Spider Ling, Spider-Side, Last Stand Peter Parker, Earth X Spider-Man, Spider-Cop, Spider-Armor Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, Chibi Spider-Man, Tarantula of Earth 1610A, Prince of Arcane / Batar Parkar / Spider-Rex, Spider-Cat, Spider-Monkey, Spider-Wolf, and Peter Parkdakar as the Spider-Mobile, which was ridiculous. You also have Mayday Parker making her first appearance as Baby Mayday. Let's see. I think that's really a lot of the big one.
J.K. Simmons
playing
back as J. Jonah Jameson.
Let's see. We have Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland all appearing in some capacity. The Andrew Garfield one was the most obvious one because it was actually like his face. I think the other two were just like spider footage, and then I think there was a Uncle Ben shot for.
Yeah, there was an Uncle Ben shot for both Martin Sheen and for Cliff Robertson.
Yeah,
and what was I just gonna say?
Aaron Davis. So we have Donald Glover plays an alternate version of Aaron Davis / the Prowler. That was a big fan casting of him as Miles Morales, and then obviously he plays Aaron Davis in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yes.
Which was great. And then we have, let's see, we mentioned Peggy Lou reprises her role as Mrs. Chen from Venom, identified as Earth 688. Cliff Robinson, Dennis Leary, and Jake Gyllenhaal all appear through archival footage, and we also have voice recordings of Alfred Molina saying, "Hello, Peter," which was fantastic. And then obviously there are hundreds of Spider people in this, and there's no way to quantify how many Spider-Man people were in this. Like, we're going to have to watch this movie. People are going to be watching this movie a dozen more times just to make a list.
Yeah.
But I will say the best scene in the entire movie is somebody gets Spider-Man. They all stop. You, me, you.
Recreates the now the famous meme.
I love the 1960s Spider-Man when he's swinging in slow with he can't move because they use stock footage when they animated back in the day, and he goes, "Oh no, I missed," and he just falls, or I can't bend my leg. This movie had some of the best comedy, the best visuals, the best script writing. Like you can't say enough great things about this movie.
Yeah, no, it was really, really well done.
I really wish I remember what I gave the first one, so when we do Star City ratings, I'll do the same thing or different. But I will say that this may be a near perfect movie. I can't give it perfect though until we see the second half.
Yeah. I guess.
All right.
I mean, the movie itself is great. I mean, the other one, you'll just be the other movie.
So, any other thoughts on that you want to mention?
Just that this really has turned into, just really well done for Sony. I mean, because we talked about it forever. I mean, before the Tom Holland Spider-Man, I mean, they were just,
trying.
Well, what was
they wanted to do the Sinister Six stuff.
They had to do the Andrew Garfield or else they lost the rights.
Right.
They wanted to do a Sinister Six movie. They wanted to do all this. Then, the second Amazing Spider-Man movie just was not that good, and it was just not that good.
It's not that. I know.
I'm not.
I know.
But you knew that it was over for Andrew Garfield. It was like, okay, we gotta, then we gotta start over again. Then they get Tom Holland, and that seems to be consensus that this was the right move.
The best move.
Then they got Disney involved, so now the MCU can be involved. So it got to a point where it's like, okay, so what is they got left? It was this. It was the Venom, Morbius.
It's Morbin time.
God, but this really has become their crowning achievement. I think. They picked the right people to do it. Christopher Lord and why am I blanking on the other guy's name?
Miller.
Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, who did the Lego Movie, who directed 21 Jump Street. So they've been around, and they really got an eye for animation. And it doesn't have that, it was just done for animation for sake of doing it. It was like, no, this works. We made sure that we chose an animation style that would make this different from anything else.
They tried something new, and they were given permission to do it, which is even crazier, especially with a property like Spider-Man, which Sony is notoriously possessive over, rightfully so. Like, we remember hearing all the Disney stuff, and it was like, well, why don't you just want to work with Disney? And they're like, because they want 92% of all of the money for this, and we're doing all the work. They're like, okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Makes sense. But, yeah, I mean, this movie, the fact that they were able to do so much and do so many different things, it makes it work. And this movie is one of the rare times where the sequel measures up, if not surpasses, the original. And it's a rare thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's better than the first movie, but in more of just a sense of story. It's not better in terms of the other one I can't watch, and this is just a better movie. No, it's just taking a really good movie and just upping the ante
in all the right ways. They went bigger. It's like, did you see the 21 and 22 Jump Street movies?
I saw the first one, and that movie pissed me off so much.
I know, you should watch the sequel though, because they
really
lead into the meta of sequels, and like there's a whole great scene of like, we're transferring you back to Jump Street, and increasing the budget. It's like, double the budget means double the profits for some strange reason. Like, and it's the guy from Parks and Rec.
Yeah, Nick Offerman,
and it's just really a great scene. Yeah. But anyway, so I think they did those movies too.
They did. I just said that.
Yeah. So sorry, I'm multitasking. But anyway,
they were supposed to do Solo.
Yeah, which would have been an interesting.
And they just didn't have creative differences with Kathleen Kennedy, and it just
shocking.
Didn't end up.
Let me lay down on that one. Star City rating for Across the Spider-Verse. You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Okay.
I think I gave the last one a 5.
Really?
I can't find anything wrong with it. That's my problem. And I want to give this movie a 5 also. Mm-hmm. Because, like, literally, it is just... Like, even just... There's, like, a picture on the screen right now of all the different universes and the different styles. And I'm like, just that alone. Like, to create these whole worlds that feel like real worlds... Mm-hmm. And like when he's chasing him throughout the 2099 universe, like you're like, what is that thing? What does it do? Like why are the people driving this way? Like you get immersed into the world too, and you're like, well, why are all these things happening like this? So for me, I want to give it a 4.5 for now, and then I want to wait until after the third one because there are only a few trilogies in history that we can ever say every movie's good. Mm-hmm. Star Wars is one. Back to the Future.
Lethal Weapon, in my
Lethal
opinion.
Weapon.
Even 4 movies instead of 3, but still.
Yeah. So it's very hard to find. The Captain America trilogy, I would argue.
Yeah.
I wanted to say Thor at one point, but I can't anymore. But I wanted to say Ant-Man at one point, but I can't anymore. But so it's rare. It's
Iron Man, you can't say that about.
I never did.
No, I'm just saying.
But it's a rare thing to get a trilogy of movies where all of them are of high quality, and this might be one of those. So I'm excited. What about you?
I'm going to agree with you. 4.5. I thought this movie was just. I knew it was going to be good because obviously I enjoyed Into the Spider-Verse. I didn't expect it to be so much better than I expected.
Yeah.
So it was just a hit on everything. It hit on the animation. It hit on the story. It hit on the characters. It hit on all the hidden gems of, just throwing at you all the different Spider-Mans. And I was, and again, the movie's over 2 hours long. Let's establish
It's a long movie.
It's a long movie. So for anyone out there who hasn't seen it, just forewarning you, especially if you go to a theater where they show like almost a half hour of trailers, you're going to be there for at least 3 hours. But there's never a dull moment in the movie, in my opinion.
Oh, the pacing is fantastic.
The pacing is fantastic. It never to a point do you feel like you look at your watch or you look at your phone. I just was like, wow, we haven't resolved anything yet. And we've been watching this movie for a long time. And then all of a sudden, to be continued. I was like, what? I turned to my girlfriend and I'm just like, I am a little upset, but it was still so good.
So good.
And I immediately was like, when does the next one come out? I'm like, less than a year. I was like, okay.
All right, we could do this.
I can do this. It's like
it's gonna be crazy.
It's gonna be
8 months. We're gonna be talking about this movie again.
It's really gonna be interesting. And it didn't even need time to fester. I mean, immediately the movie stopped, and I was like, wow, that was fantastic.
Oh yeah, walking out of the theater,
just being like, that was so good. I could see that again in theaters. I don't know if I will, just because timing and there's other movies coming out that I want to see. So but that is a movie that's a movie I would own.
Oh yeah, absolutely. On Blu-ray.
That's a movie I would own, whatever. So I 4.5. I don't remember if I was a part of your episode, not the retrospect on Into the Spider-Verse, but like your original episode. But I would have given that movie a 4.
Yeah,
that movie was so good because it took me a while to because that movie came out before we started doing this.
Yeah,
doing
we never did an episode on the
that's
first
when
one.
You guys had your hiatus.
Yeah, the long ass hiatus. But that's going to pretty much wrap us up for today. We're not going to do Fan Feedback Friday just because I'm 2 weeks behind and I don't want to.
It's fine. We'll start over next week.
But if you guys want to participate in Fan Feedback Friday, it's really simple. You just go to our Facebook page, Multiverse Fancast, every Friday between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a Fan Feedback Friday question. You can also check out more of our content on our website, themisfitfaction.com. And if you're looking for some social media interaction, we're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all these things. Just type in The Misfit Faction or the Multiverse Fancast. Odds are you'll find some of our stuff. If you want more Sean in your life, and let's face it, who doesn't? You can check him out with me on our other show, Cinematic Adventures. But that's going to wrap us up for today. Sean, thank you for joining me.
You are welcome.
I am welcome. Thank you
for
welcoming me. But anyway, that's going to wrap us up. As always, I'm Paul.
I'm not Ronnie, but I'm Sean.
And we'll be back in a flash.